You have to focus on following that system. And this is where I think we fail a lot as Americans as well, is because we don't really focus all that great, right? Like, I've totally got ADD, it's bad. But my point is, if I start a system, if I start a diet book, and I do it for 2 weeks, and then I read another diet book, and I start that diet book, and I do that for 2 weeks, and so on and so forth, I'm not really focusing that well, okay? So focus stands for follow one course until successful, right? The most important part of this is one course. So whether you choose to do, the system that I subscribe to, or an Atkins system, or a paleo diet system, or a plant-based diet system, whatever that system is, if it makes sense on paper, right? If you don't have to, at the end of the day, do this hammer and mallet thing, follow that system. Right? It's kind of like a horse putting the blinders on. Like, don't focus on who's doing what next to you. Focus on what you are doing in your task. And how long are you supposed to stay on that? Until successful. Okay? So that means that you work within the parameters of whatever lifestyle factor that you can sustain. You work within those parameters until you're successful. Now, does that mean that if you're just absolutely not successful at all doing all the parameters and you're actually doing what you're supposed to do, that you wouldn't abandon ship and find another one? Of course you would. We have to be practical about this. But the point is once you choose something, it's like, we're in, we jumped, we're gonna go, we're gonna keep going until we find that success, until we refine it to the degree in which we find success. Coming back to this control thing. So like I said, it's human nature to seek to control everything around us, right? Because we want to feel good. We want to feel happy. We want to feel all these pleasurable things, and we want to avoid all of these painful things. And based on the circumstances of our lives, we've learned to manipulate our environment or manipulate ourselves to try to create kind of this perfect world where everything just works out exactly the way that we want it to. We do live in a fallen world. Has everything always gone perfectly for anybody? No, right? We always, every single day almost, face some sort of pain, some sort of struggle, some sort of opposition that we must overcome, okay? Now, we can work on external controls or internal controls. Okay, external controls are it's an illusion. Okay, we can't control our external environment at all. 100% can't control it. We can manipulate it, right, or draw influence onto it, but we can't directly control our external environment. And we've all met people who I believe have had some sort of major pain in their life, and they have learned that they don't want to control themselves, they want to control and manipulate their external environment. And they say, you know what, you have to do it this way and this way and this way, my way is right and nobody else's way is right at all, everybody else is wrong. And so really what they're doing is they're trying to protect themselves. Okay, what are you doing? Do you try to protect yourself by trying to create the perfect external environment? And we all do, right? Like, I can't just, like, some people are extreme examples of this, but every single one of us to some degree would at least like to change some of the things around us, right? Like, if there was no McDonald's and fast food and no unhealthy food whatsoever, and there weren't cars and we had to walk everywhere, yeah, like, that would be a better environment for our health, okay? But that's not what it is, right? I mean, you can become Amish if you want to and go move out and, get a buggy or something, but besides that, that's not going to change. So what do you have to do? You have to change your internal outlook, your internal perspective. We're going to talk about the subconscious mind. Around this room right now, there's a whole bunch of external inputs, right? There's all kinds of stuff that's being brought into your mind, okay? So, for instance, I can hear people running on the treadmill, hear the little steps, right? So our subconscious mind is actually designed to desensitize, So its job is basically to only allow in certain things. And what does our subconscious allow in? What our consciousness tells us is important. So if we focus on something, on our consciousness, that is what our subconsciousness will see. We need to use this consciousness to help our subconscious allow things in that we want to be allowed in. It's the gatekeeper, okay? Coming back to one of the wisest things I've ever heard said, was actually by my pastor at church, and he said, basically, whatever you say, finish that sentence with "and that's the way I want it." As soon as I heard that, I was like, wait a second. What am I saying? What do I say a lot? What do I think a lot, right? Like, what's kind of my my internal dialogue that's going on? Like, what is that? And so I might say something like, talking about fat loss, like, man, I'm so fat. And that's the way I want it. Okay, because what am I telling my subconscious with that conscious speech? I control what I say, right? So I'm saying I am fat, so my subconscious is going to support that fatness. Okay, so what makes me fat? Cookies and donuts and, fast food and, being lazy and not going to the gym. So what am I only going to see as appealing if I say this? Things that will continue to make me what I say I am. Let's not lie to ourselves and go, I'm super skinny and that's the way I want it, right? Like, okay, that's kind of silly. But what you can do is say, you know what? I am more over fat than I would like to be. And I'm taking control to make myself the way that I wish to be. And that's the way I want it, right? So I'm taking control to make myself the way I want to be, and that's what I want. Okay, that's a real statement, right? So you stated truth, but you also stated a resolve in what you're going to do about it. So what we say internally and externally is super duper important for what our subconscious allows in, right? Because a lot of times you go, man, I just wish that junk food wasn't so delicious and so appealing. Okay, how could we say that in a way that would help us say, like, well, I love the way that I feel when I eat chicken and broccoli and rice or whatever it is, right? Like, I love the way that I feel when I eat these healthy foods. And that's the way I want it, right? It makes me feel good when I eat these, because that's true, right? Because we all know that when we do eat better, we do feel better. Okay, we have more energy, our body changes the way that we want it to. So that's a critical aspect of this, right? And we want to use this. We want to use this strategically in our system, right? So, like, if I hate making Tupperware, which I kind of said, I could say, well, I love the preparation and the discipline and how it trains me to be a better person, from being a better spouse, being a better employee, to serving my children better and my body better, right? Like, discipline absolutely helps you do all these things. So you say, like, I enjoy the discipline of food prep, and that's the way I want it. I want to enjoy that. Absolutely, that's true. So use this to help with the system, to help with our focus, okay? Obviously, we control what we eat, right? Like, sometimes we think that the donuts force themselves down our throats, right? But they never really did, right? It was our brain said, those donuts look really good. I can't help myself, okay? So we absolutely control what we eat, and we talked about this already with the effort aspect, right? So this is where the discipline and the effort and not being afraid to fail, okay? If you want to read something that's super motivational, and you may have read it already, it's called The Man in the Arena. Was it Theodore Roosevelt? Somebody, one of those presidents. He gave a speech called The Man in the Arena speech, right? You can just Google this, go to images, because you see a cool image of like a lion or something, and then you can read about what it says. But basically it talks about, like, how you need to be vulnerable, how you need to take courage. Don't be one of those people who sits on the sideline like the armchair quarterbacks go, Tom Brady made a stupid pass, like, that was dumb. Oh really, Mr. Armchair Quarterback? What would you have done in that situation? right? Did you have the guts to put yourself out there on the field and try as hard as you possibly can, and even, throw an interception, make a dumb effort, right? So this really talks about how important being vulnerable is. Admitting that you feel weak, or admitting that you feel powerless against, donuts or whatever it is, to someone who can motivate you, to someone who can help you overcome those particular obstacles, right? Because none of us can do it alone, right? None of us can just 100% do it alone. We have to get information and education from someone else, and it always helps to get some motivation and inspiration as well. Another one of my favorite quotes, I'm going all favorite quotes today, Zig Ziglar. People say, Zig, motivation doesn't last. You may have heard this word before. Well, that's true, right? Think about it. Motivation really doesn't last. Like, I'll be motivated as soon as I leave here, right? Like, you might be motivated, like, I'm gonna go prep my food, and then like you walk out into the freezing cold, and all of a sudden you forget that you were motivated, and you just go on living your life the exact same way habitually that you were before, right? It doesn't last. But Zig says, well, it's true. Neither does bathing. Of course, bathing doesn't last. I get stinky after like a day or so, right? So that's why we recommend it daily. I guess I need to put myself into situations where I'm going to get motivated. And I can't assume that just because I'm motivated now, it's going to motivate me the rest of my life, which is, to me personally, I can't speak for anyone else, but for me personally, I used to think that way. Oh, just get motivated, and then I just wouldn't do it. So it's like, well, I need to get motivated, and then I need to surround myself with other motivated people, or plug myself in. That's one of the beauties of modern internet era, right? There's a lot of downfalls to the Instagram and Facebooks and all that kind of stuff. But if you surround yourself with like motivational quotes, right? Or you friend people who are motivating, and you wake up every single day and you check that, and you see like all these people doing amazing, awesome things, telling you that you're awesome and you can do it and blah, 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 and you get motivated, well, that's awesome. Put yourself in situations where you have that social support, right? Whether it be real in life, in-person social support, or if you can't get it in person, or if you want more than just that, then you can go to, social media types of stuff and plug yourself in to those types of motivational things. So at the end of all this, to summarize, set your goals. Now we're really resetting our goals, okay? I will tell you, psychologically, one habit at a time, because you have 85% likelihood of being successful changing one habit. If you try 2 habits at once, you have a 35% likelihood. If you do 3 habits, okay, if I can spell, you have a 10% likelihood of success. So I know when we start New Year's, we I got this. Find the one that's most meaningful to you. Find the one that's going to impact you the most, right? Help you feel the best. Something that you can tangibly measure. Okay, one thing. Okay, if you're going to only choose one thing, you're going to choose the most impactful thing. You're going to be very, very thoughtful about it, and you're going to be very, very strategic about it, and implement that into a well thought out, well appropriatized system. Once you engage in that system, if you're well thought out, then you need to focus on following that system and understand that you only have control over certain aspects of everything, and what you say, what you eat, and the amount of effort that you put into things.